What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Original Pagan, my new channel. I'm excited for this channel. I've got a cool video to watch here with you today. I'm going to try and pronounce it correctly, but if I get it wrong, I do apologize. Dwaraka, underwater mystery explained. Dwaraka, underwater mystery explained by Keerthi history. I'm so sorry. I'm trying here, guys. I'm trying to pronounce these Hindi words, and I'm just not very good at it. And I do apologize, and I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep getting better at it. But this video I'm excited for. Someone sent me this, and it looks really interesting. It's a bit more mysterious than anything else. It is connected to Hinduism, but it has that little element of, I don't know what you would say, kind of like, not conspiracy, but fun around it. Yeah. Don't forget to go over to the original video. It'll be down below in the description if you want to go check out the original video. Please go over there, give it some love. I hope that this channel can grow just as much as my main channel, although my main channel is over 500,000 subscribers. Let's see how this one does. I think we can get there. Also, if you didn't see, little shout out for my new business, Morale, which is a new mushroom-based drink that I am so excited. It's a completely separate business to my YouTube thing. It's a new thing I'm doing. I've put a lot of time and money into this. It's a brand new business where I'm actually developing a drink, and it's a mushroom-based drink that is going to be released here in the UK and around the world, hopefully. And if you're interested, drink Morale. There'll be a link down below. Other than that, let's shut up. Let's pull this up and let's see what this person has to say.
Krishna real nahi hai. Mahabharata and all sab bagwas hai. It's just mythology. There's a huge difference between mythology and history. How many times have we heard this? But do you know, few decades back, Indian archaeologists found a submerged city in the exact same place where Dwaraka said to have been existed according to Mahabharata. Yes, Dwaraka, the same exact city which was built by Lord Krishna himself. But at the same time, a lot of false information about Dwaraka have been spreading across the internet, which portrays the magnificent Krishna statue on a huge palace as the archaeological remains of Dwaraka.
Dwaraka. Is that how you say it? There are a lot of stories about cities that sink underwater. Obviously, the biggest one is Atlantis, right? There's also stories in Welsh history, mythology for Welsh, where the city gets sunken under the sea. It seems to be a very common trend. It makes sense, right? Because a lot of cities are made next to water for obvious reasons. And so, obviously, certain cities could have definitely flooded and sunk underwater at some point.
Which is not true at all. So what are the archaeological findings and what is that trying to establish? Let's analyze. According to Mahabharata, Dwaraka was a fortified city which was spread across 84 kilometers, and it was situated at a point where Gomati River and Arabian Sea meet. After the death of Lord Krishna, this ancient city was submerged by sea, and this was witnessed by Arjuna. To this day, Dwaraka is still one among the prominent pilgrimage sites in India. But what we need to establish here is Dwaraka is not.
I like this video. I feel like she's shouting at me, though. Why is she shouting at me? Calm down. It's all good. You don't have to shout. I know you're excited. I get excited as well. We don't have to shout.
Just religiously important, but also archaeologically significant. The excavation of Dwaraka is the most important archaeological excavation happened in the 20th century. Those who don't know, there's a 1,000-year gap in the history of ancient India. We don't know what exactly happened after the decline of Harappan civilization and before the emergence of Buddha. And this excavation of Dwaraka filled that empty space. The first archaeological excavation of Dwaraka was conducted by the Deccan College of Pune in 1963. They excavated around the outside walls of the Dwarkadish temple, and they published a report in 1963 where it was clearly established that the present Dwaraka is minimum 2,000 years old. In fact, they went on to an
minimum 2,000 years old.
extern saying from our observation of the various places in and around Dwaraka, as also from the evidence of excavation, one can definitely say that this is the Dwaraka mentioned in the Mausala Parva of the Mahabharata, the Dwaraka Mahatmya of the Skanda Purana, and other Puranas, and the Gatachataka. This particular excavation done by the Deccan College of Pune was the first serious effort made to determine the antiquity of Dwaraka and to find out whether it could be considered as Krishna's Dwaraka or not. Without any doubt, they established that the modern Dwaraka is at least 2000 years old. But
Whoa.
it created a much bigger problem. According to their conclusion, Dwaraka was built after the Mauryan period. But as per the literary and inscriptional references, Mahabharata happened at least in the 6th century, if not earlier. That means minimum 8000 years back. However,
it just feels like the history for Indian stuff just goes further and further back the more we find out, right? It seems like it just never stops. It just goes back forever.
they agreed that this conclusion is based on the findings of that particular excavation, and there is still a huge possibility of finding evidences which could be much older. So the archaeologists wanted to do a new excavation on land close to the Dwarkadish temple. But
Look
to
at that temple. Look at that. That's crazy, isn't it?
that the modern buildings nearby the temple need to be removed, which is not at all an easy task. Before moving forward, if you're someone who's preparing for government exams or want to learn history in an engaging way, I would highly suggest you to check out the UPSC Power Bank.
Looks like a little bit of an ad here, so we'll just skip the ad real quick.
That is correct. And they also have mind maps for easy any other subject. In 1979, after 16 years
It's not that I don't want you to check out the ad. You can go over to the original video in the description, but I want to get to the juicy stuff. Do you know what I mean?
from the first excavation, archaeologist S.R. Rao got an opportunity to excavate Dwaraka. He managed to pull down a Panchayat office nearby the Dwarkadish temple. After the demolition, they were clearing out the place. At that time, few sculptures of 19th century were recovered and a stone platform was found. What do we usually expect when we demolish a building? There'll just be land, right? If we excavate it, we may find some ancient artifacts. But here, after pulling down that building, they found a stone platform covering something underneath. At first, the archaeologists hesitated to remove that. But after much hesitation, they removed it, and what they found under that stone was so shocking. They found remains of a well-preserved temple of Vishnu, which belonged to the 9th century. That temple had a Garbhagriha, a corridor, an assembly hall, and a small porch. And when excavated further, right under this temple, they found another temple which is much older. And under the foundation of the second temple, they found remains of another temple which is much older than the earlier two. So they demolished.
How far back does it go? Like, seriously, it just seems like the history of the Hindu people just it's almost unfathomable, isn't it?
The Panchayat office and found the remains of 3 temples layered one by one. And they also found a huge rectangular stone structure which at first they thought could be a well, but later they found out it's not a well but in fact a secret passage which was mentioned in the Puranas. This secret passage was connected through the Kusheshwar Mahadev temple with the Dwarkadish temple. And while pulling down a modern wall, they found beautifully carved pillars of another huge temple which belonged to the 12th century.
Then why did they cover that up, though? Why was it covered up is a big question, right?
3 temples found earlier were destroyed by the sea, but this one, the 4th temple, was destroyed due to vandalism by the enemies. Finally, from this particular excavation,
why would an enemy want to do that? It makes no sense. It makes no sense to want to destroy something that's beautiful, whether you agree with it or not. Do you know what I mean?
They found out there were totally 8 Dwarakas, including the current one. The time period of first Dwaraka could be between 16th to 15th century, which means anywhere around 3,500 years old. And the evidence for this was the lustrous redware found in the excavation. The second Dwaraka could belong to anywhere between 900 to 500 BCE, which means minimum 2,500 years old. And the evidence for this were the house floors and thin black on redwares. The third Dwaraka might have existed anywhere between 2nd century BCE and 6th century AD, which means anywhere around 1,500 to 2,200 years old. And the evidence for this was the temple found in the last layer. 4th Dwaraka might belong to 7th to 8th century AD, which means around 1,300 years old. And the evidence for this was the temple which is found in the second layer. 5th Dwaraka might have.
I do feel like she's shouting at me. She's got some really good information here, and I'm genuinely really enjoying the videos, and I'm probably going to watch more of them, but I do feel like she's shouting at me a bit. She's like, you need to know about this. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's almost like the history keeps getting pushed back, and like we keep finding out that it's longer and older. At the same time, science is backing it as well, which is even more weird, isn't it?
Existed between 8th to 12th century, which means around 1000 years old, and the evidence for this was the temple which was found in the first layer after the destruction of that Panchayat office. 6th Dwaraka might have existed in 12th century, which means 800 years old, and the evidence for this was the 4th temple which was vandalized by the enemies. The 7th Dwaraka may belong anywhere between 13th to 15th century, which means around 700 years old, and the evidence for this was the inner and outer portions of the Dwarkadish temple. Finally, 8th Dwaraka is the modern township we have right now, and it might have started after the 16th century. This onshore excavation, which was done on land, proved without any doubt that Dwaraka is minimum 3,500 years old, and it was destroyed by the ocean.
We're talking minimum here.
Mahabharata and Puranas say Dwaraka was built by Krishna and then it was followed by the sea. If there's any truth in this, there should be at least few buildings buried in the seabed.
True.
To find out that, it's important to carry out a marine excavation, which means researching in the ocean. But the time we are talking about is 1980s. 40 years back from now, and marine archaeology is not an easy task. You need archaeologists who
Surely people have been doing it now then, with the technology we've got now. Surely people have gone down there to have a look at if there's any structures, right?
historians, oceanographers, geologists, divers, underwater photographers, and a lot of the technicians. Even today, the Archaeological Survey of India is not funded enough. Imagine 40 years back, and this is going to be the first marine excavation for India. There were no archaeologists who could dive in the sea, and the few available local divers were completely ignorant of archaeological procedures. And there was no agency to fund the marine archaeological studies at that time. Finally, after a lot of struggles, they managed to arrange 80,000 rupees. Thus, the first marine excavation of Dwaraka started in 1983. From then, 12 marine excavations were done in and around Dwaraka till 1992.
That's still, it doesn't feel like enough. Like, I feel like they should get like quite a lot of people down there to do this.
All these underwater excavations, they found a lot of artifacts like seal, wall structures, iron objects, brass objects, potteries, stone objects like blades, stool, anchors, particularly triangular shaped 3-hole anchors were found. After all the research, they found out that Dwaraka is not just a single town but a city-state which includes many towns, and there was also a huge port where trading used to happen. Now, is there any way we can claim that this Dwaraka found underwater is the same Dwaraka built by Krishna himself? To find out that, S.R. Rao, the chief archaeologist who carried out the Dwaraka excavation, compares the evidence collected from the excavation with the writings of Mahabharata and other.
I still have to read the Mahabharata, but it would take me so long, wouldn't it? It's like 10 books. I'm going to have to get it, but it would just take me forever.
The location and physical features of the island bed Dwaraka matches very closely with the place called Kusasthali in Mahabharata.
If you want me to read the Mahabharata, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll get that 10-book series, and maybe I'll review each book after I've read it on the channel and give you my thoughts.
30 to 40 meter wooded hill in Bed Dwaraka matches with the Raivataka hill referred in Mahabharata. After the submergence, Dwaraka is described as the citadel in water. As per this description, we found fort walls along the seashore and submerged walls in the sea. And 6 fortified structures were found in the ocean. And these structures matches well with the description of Dwaraka city in the Skanda Purana. And as mentioned in Mahabharata, Dwaraka was highly civilized with engineering skills, advanced technology, and high literacy of the people. Hereby, archaeologist S.R. Rao confirms that Dwaraka is not an exaggeration or myth, but was a city in real sense. But the question is, it's been 30 years since it's found. How many of us were taught about this in our schools? Our archaeologists proved that Dwaraka, the city built by Lord Krishna himself, existed exactly the way it's described in Mahabharata, the great epic of India, which is always being ridiculed as mythology. Why the hell none of us are talking about it? Is it really just left out casually, or is it?
I think there's a lot of historical events that have happened that are just not looked into enough. I don't think it just so happens to be this one. I think there's a lot of them that are like that, if I'm honest with you.
Been hidden intentionally. Obviously, the media doesn't care. The government is not spending enough on archaeology. The least we could do is spreading the information which were proven evidentially. I think it's high time for us to reclaim our lost identity.
Hell yeah. Great video. It did feel like she was shouting at me the whole time. Her name is Keerthi History. I'll leave a link down below to the original video. Very good video. Very interesting video. It makes me feel like there's, considering one of the big points she was saying in that is that archaeology isn't really funded that well in India. It makes me believe that there's probably a lot more stuff we don't know about the history and a lot more stuff that is yet to be discovered. And I hope we do discover it very soon. Great video. I'll leave a link down below to the original video down in the description. Also, like I said, go check out Morale, my new business, down below. Let's get this YouTube channel big. Subscribe if you haven't already. There's only like 5% of people who watch these videos are subscribed. So subscribe and let's make this channel bigger than my main channel, Original Human. All right? I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.